The River State House of Assembly, led by Victor Oko-Jumbo, is taking a strong stance against 25 lawmakers led by Martin Amaewhule. These lawmakers have been accused of undermining the House's integrity and violating Section 99 of the 1999 Constitution.
Well, the Assembly is threatening legal action and has resolved to invoke the Constitution's provisions to address the issue. Now, this follows a recent court judgment that affirmed Martin Amaewhule as the authentic Speaker of the Rivers State Assembly. Well, joining us this Friday morning is the founder of TAF Africa, a political development and policy analyst, one whom we enjoyed spending time with this week in Abuja at the NES. Dr. Jake Epelle joins us again this morning. Good to have you. And first off, have you been able to recover from all the highlights at the NES this year?
Thank you very much. It's good to be on set again with you this morning. Recovery from the economic summit, I think that's a question. You got me off the cuff. But however, it's been really a journey of experience being part of the economic summit. And hopefully the outcome of the summit will reflect on the outlook of the economy in the nation.
All right. Let's get into this, our focus for today. We've seen back and forth River State having assemblies, two assemblies, one from the left side. Of course, you have the Oko-Jumbo, and then you also have Amaewhule as well. And now there are threats, and also there are statements being made about Nigeria's 1999 Constitution, talking about violating Section 99 of the 1999 Constitution. I'd like to get your view, because I always love to ask this question. Do you think, or do you agree that the 25 lawmakers had defected from the PDP to the APC? Do you also agree with that thought? Because we saw them waving the flags, we saw them singing the song, we saw them going in for a party or a dinner, we also saw them, so many things that showed that they had defected. What's your take on that?
Well, my take is on the side of the law, even though I'm not a lawyer, but I can read what the law says. The interpretation is always given to the lawyers. However, if you go by the constitutional provision, the Electoral Act, and other judgment of previous court judgments, it is no longer a controversy to say that 25, 27 lawmakers are no longer lawmakers of the State Assembly of River State because they defected from the party that elected them into a party that they wanted to belong. They cannot have one foot in APC and one foot in PDP. So just like the president said, subsidy is gone. These lawmakers are gone. Now, to be very objective, my concern is also what is making rounds, that the Oko-Jumbo fashion of the National Assembly, that they were previously suspended. I think that there needs to be a clarity on that. If that is not the case, and the Oko-Jumbo fashion is instituted by law, then the 25, 27 lawmakers ceases to exist. That's very clear, and we must allow peace to reign in my dear state. These individuals responsible for some of this crisis has thrown not only the state, but the entire nation into a constitutional crisis. And unfortunately, these laws, these judges that obviously has been one way or the other compromised are given judgment that throws the spanner into the works. And so I think there's a need for the new Chief Justice to please help this country by discipline those that should be disciplined and put a stop to this judicial nonsense that we're going through. They are simply manipulating the legal structures of the country and making the judiciary a laughingstock, and then using that opportunity to create chaos within the state. So I think it's high time the Chief Justice of the Federation, being a woman and knowing fully well that if she does not live up to expectation, history will not be very kind to her. And I'm sure she will want to do something real quick to address the imbalance in the judicial system, especially as it relates to River State. Let them stop making my dear state a laughing stock.
Yeah,
it's become
one of the things that
after another.
I understand that there is, a delay in the feed, but we'll have to manage through it. One of the things that has been put forward in its argument by the River State government, of course, going to the Supreme Court now, to see a further interpretation of the appeal court ruling. One of the things that the argument is that is that these people, or rather not the River State government now, the 25 lawmakers could argue that simply waving a flag or claiming to have defected is not, enough for anybody to say that they no longer should be River State lawmakers. And of course, if they haven't resigned from the PDP and signed paperwork taking them into the APC, that they cannot be said to have fully defected to the APC. That could be their argument. So I don't know if that holds a strong enough stance with you. And then second, what would you want Governor Sim Fubara to do right now as we wrap up 2024 in order to get some level of peace in River State? Are there ways that you think he can still maybe shift a little bit to accommodate these other factions and these other persons who have strong interest in River State politics and River State structures?
Well, it's just unfortunate that things are panning out the way it is going. In direct response to your question, these guys came out publicly pronouncing their intention. They have never at any forum come out the same way they came out and said, oh, they are not members of PDP. They are not members of APC. Apart from knowing fully well that they were caught in the act, I think that's what happened when you plot evil. You don't walk in absolute wisdom, So there is no place in the Constitution that says that there are all kinds of paperwork to be done. When you are aggrieved with a particular party and you wrote your resignation and came to the media and announced it and all that, I don't think there's any other route. They are not going to march to PDP and say, oh, from today we are no longer part of you. Other people have gone the same way by publicly announcing their intention, and the political party that received them with an open arm. The president made a pronouncement to say that, well, if children come to you, come into your house and you open your door and receive them, you're not going to open your door and exit them. So the leader of the party confirmed. The then Okocha or Okorocha, whatever his name is, in Rivers State, who was then leading the faction of APC, confirmed that he has received them. There were pictures showing, videos showing that they actually decamped and went to pledge their loyalty to the other party. Period. They are gone. And they are gone forever. Unless we want to repeal and replace the Constitution just because they have not discovered they've been caught in the act. So they are gone, you know. So in terms of solution, what I think Fubara should do, stay focused, obey the rule of law, you know, do the needful to serve the people. And that's what I keep saying and keep saying to him. Serve the people. Focus on delivering the dividends of democracy and good governance. Ensure that you get results. With results, you can shut the mouth of your critics. You know, serve the people. Let the people be happy with you. And I guarantee you the political class will not touch you. If he allows these people to come on board, he has signed his death warrant, period. They will go back and do everything possible to impeach him. And so the way to go is the way of the law. Let him obey the rule of law to the extent that the law allows him to obey, not fictitious kangaroo kind of judgment that will further create anarchy in the state. You know, one man and his group cannot hold the destiny of the entire country in his palm. It's not going to happen. Whether they like it or not, it is not going to happen. The people have the power to resist anarchy, and we cannot enthrone a so-called emperor without a kingdom in a place where there is kingdom. It's not going to happen. I think we need to send that message clearly to them. This is just a group of community people, brothers, throwing the state into anarchy and thinking that they will find peace eventually. It will not happen. Amaewhule and the sitting FCT ministers are cousins, you know, and they cannot continue the way they are going.
Oh, okay. I mean, I pretty much, that's much more like an expose there. I mean, no one would have thought that there's some family reunion going on there. But the current speaker, talking about Jumbo himself, insists that INEC must actually conduct a by-election to fill the seats, the vacant seats of these 24 members. Do you think that this would actually happen, looking at December 13, which is just barely months away? Also, do you expect the #1 citizen, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to actually resolve this issue immediately? Because it seems like he had tried wielding the father and son stick, but that didn't bring any positive fruits or yield any positive fruits like we're seeing now. So my question is do you think that INEC will or would be able to conduct the by-election? And secondly, also, are you expecting the president to actually step in now and resolve this crisis?
I think I would like to start with the last question, and I'll come back to the first. Yes, this is where leadership plays a pivotal role. You know, we don't need to tell the president to step in. He needs to step in. But the reason why we didn't get the political solution that he was embarking on in the first place was his inability to define his neutrality. You know, he wasn't neutral. It was more or less tilting towards and pleasing his minister. and that's Nyesom Wike, because that thing looks like what was drafted and handed over to the president to administer. And that's why it didn't work. You know, it was in every negotiation, if you want to be the one that would bring the warring parties to the table and allow them to negotiate and get a solution, you must practice the principle of neutrality. You must be neutral so that you can create the credibility you need and the confidence on both sides so that they will see reasons. But when you're non-neutral, this is what you get. If you're trying to favor one person at the expense of the other, this is what you're going to get, you know. So that's the problem, you know. There was no neutrality in that negotiation. And that's why the other party involved saw it as, saw themselves being cheated, and therefore they couldn't. And secondly, to be honest with you, Fubara went back, and the people around him, the people of River State, refused to accept that terms, that so-called term that he signed. They refused to accept it and put him under pressure not to adhere to it. And there were also several court injunctions and judgment that restrict him from accepting that terms. So he's almost like between the devil and the deep blue sea. If he accepts it, they will turn around and use it to impeach him. If he does not accept it, they are turning around to use it to impeach him. Now they are using and creating the narrative that didn't work. The narrative was, well, you disrespected the president, you didn't follow what his directive, and that's not true. Fubara that I know him as a person, and we're from the same place. And I'm not trying to be defensive of him because of that. I'm just being objective. You know, I'm not a politician, don't intend to be one, will never be one. Quote me any day from this video, I will never, you know. Now the point is, there's so much pressure on this young man, and there's nothing he can do than to toe the line of survival. And that's exactly what is happening. And that in spite of that, he's given the state, the youths are solidly behind him, the aged are solidly behind him, because they have seen the evil that this group is perpetuating. Now, in terms of INEC, their hands are tied. There is little or nothing they can do because they are using court system to manipulate the electoral structure, which does not give them the or mandate or the authority to then conduct election. Although we also know that INEC himself have not been totally and absolutely fair and exonerated in this whole game, you know. But they have a platform within which that it makes it practically impossible for them to conduct election. You can't conduct election when there are one court judgment after the other, one court judgment after the other. So legally, INEC is doing what she should do, you know, because she cannot unturn a court judgment, whether it's a kangaroo judgment or a lacuna judgment. They cannot, you know, because all of that comes from a legal process. So there's no way they can do conduct election. If I'm in their shoes, I will not, you know. Yeah. But hopefully, at the end of the day, when all the dust settles, they should conduct election for the replacement of these lawmakers. All right. If Dr. Epelle, I want to ask if, you know... And that's if their community that elected them endorses them to recontest. If their party endorses, yes, they can.
All right. I want to quickly ask, you know, if there's more to this, you know, than we see, because the way it has been interpreted, you know, is simply one person who has left the office of governor, currently minister, not wanting his structure. That was the initial explanation that we were given. his structure in River State to be uprooted by the new governor. And of course, the new governor is not wanting to play ball according to whatever agreements that they had before Simfobara became governor. That's the narrative as it stands. But is there more to, all of this that we see? Is this also because of, the ability for maybe silently the APC to have control of River State? As, of course, the FCT minister is serving under an APC government. Have we also seen the silence of Mr. President because he also wants that control of River State, even if not, being headed by an APC governor? Or is there other parts of the conversation that we're not just aware of?
Well, I think the main issue that sometimes we play down even in the media is resource control. Resource control. The party concerned, both ways, wants to lay hold on the resources of the state. Maybe one wants to siphon it for his personal use. The other maybe wants to manage it to serve the people. That's the difference. That's number one issue. The number one issue is resource control. Somebody wants to lay hands on the money of the state and manipulate it and siphon it for his own personal use, And the other party is resisting that because there's no way he can provide governance, effectively without proper funding. That's number one. Number two is who controls the political landscape of the state, and that's where they are hiding the phrase structure, political structure, Now, the truth remains that if you do well and you have left a predecessor, a successor who you have been able to give the support, you don't need to struggle for your political structure because that individual will help to maintain that structure and give you the leadership, even if it's a pseudo leadership that you need, So is the control of the political landscape, with the intention of how to manipulate it to deliver in 2020, in the next 2027, yes, and then the other one is issue of influence, and relevance. Someone wants to remain influential and relevant in the entire socioeconomic landscape of the state. So going back to my three-pronged presentation, number one is resource control. They're interested in the pulse of the state, whether they like it or not. They've created this huge political, economic conglomerate that they want to control, they want to sit on, and to be able to do that, they need a lot of funding. And these guys are very greedy. They never feel that they have enough. They keep getting, because they have created spending pattern that you need to consistently siphon public funds to maintain. That's just the truth. And like I said, they want to also be in charge of the political landscape. They determine, one man determines who becomes the House of Rep, who becomes the State Assembly, who becomes the governor, who becomes the deputy. Just one man. Now, here is some of the things that have never been said. There are about 18 commissioners in River State executive. This individual appointed 17, leaving the sitting governor with only one commissioner. Who does that? And several other key appointments were appointed by, it was so, by him. It was so bad that if you're going into the government house of Rivers State and you're not in the good book of the former governor, someone at the gate will pick phone and call him, and he will call the governor and say, I don't want to see this person. And that's the end. It was so bad that there was an invitation that was extended to the sitting governor to appear in a church. And this same individual, out of the fact that he wanted to exert his influence, told the governor to sit down there, you're not going anywhere. And he did not go. He was literally dictating to the man when to go into the bedroom with his wife. I mean, who does that? There's
yeah,
no
but the challenge with that point is
with his right senses,
that, you know, and I think I had mentioned this before.
Good governance. It's
I apologize for jumping in. You know, the challenge that I have with this narrative, you know, because it almost tries to paint Sim Fubara as, you know, some innocent lamb who just wanted to do good for his state, but, you know, the FCT minister, you know, came in and, of course, he's trying to impose on him everything. The challenge with this is that it seemed like Sim Fubara was good to go with this agreement until maybe it became too much. So maybe if Nyesom Wike hadn't, you know, allegedly now, the way the story is being told, if he hadn't maybe overdone it, if he hadn't maybe imposed so much pressure, you know, Sim Fubara was good to go with the agreement, with maybe 15 ministers appointed or House of Assembly members, with maybe not all of these appointments. If he had gotten maybe 50%, he was good to go. So he's not necessarily innocent in these agreements and this, you know, the whole crisis that has gone on.
Well, you've answered the question. You've answered the question because, you know, there's only as much as a man can take. Sim is human. There's a level of pressure you will put on a man that is also sitting and having control and the power of governance. There's, to a certain level, you will push him, and the person will react, you know, and it will boomerang. Even if the person doesn't want to react, those around him will react and make it completely impossible for him to obey those laws. Now, the truth remains, you know, go back to history, go back to videos, go back to statements that the former governor made. It was obvious that he was projecting a principle that he did not believe in. Oh, I'm not going to interfere. I'm just going to stay away. He's mature to lead and all that. And of course, when you give someone, you know, what looks like rules, directives that will kill that person eventually, that person is not going to stick to it. It doesn't matter, you know, I cannot put my hand in the fire and the fire is burning consistently and burning me and killing me, and you expect me to stay there. At some point in time, the person will renege. If those principles are not implementable, even if the person wants to implement it, it will be practically impossible for the person to implement. Again, I said to you, I know Fubara. I've met the former governor, who is the FCT minister, just once or twice. You know, not even, you know, he was the Minister for State for Education when I put together the National Albinism Policy. I mean, these are some of the legacies of this gentleman that he should be proud of. He was the first government official in the world to sign the first national policy on albinism globally. Google it. He put his pen to the first national policy on albinism in the whole world. You know, even though he didn't understand what he was doing and he didn't even give credit to himself for that, you understand? That was my closest meeting with him. But the more I know Fubara is a very responsible, very humble, you know, very compassionate young man. He's younger than me. That's why I keep calling him young.
He can be described that way. I think the FCT minister could also be described that way as well.
To go
the challenge once again that I have.
Relationship. Have you noticed that he doesn't say much?
Yeah. The challenge once again that I have is, you know, no matter how calm and good and, you know,
can't describe Wike that way.
And whatnot, you know, that he's described as, you know, what I'm pointing out here is that regardless of how flawed his entry into River State Government House was, and whatever agreements, according to these narratives, whatever agreements that he had with Nyesom Wike, the only challenge here is that the FCT minister may have overdone it. It's not because he wasn't willing to play ball initially with the FCT minister and allow him nominate 15 commissioners out of 18 or 17 out of 18 or House of Assembly members. He didn't have a problem with it initially. The problem here is that the FCT minister maybe started to overdo it, you know, and so he's not necessarily innocent. If the FCC minister maybe had decided I was going to, you know, impose only 14 commissioners on you out of 18, and the House of Assembly members, I'm only going to impose 10, he would have been fine with it, which is still a major flaw in the whole conversation on River State governance. And so, you know, he might be humble, but he's not necessarily innocent in all of this. The River State House of Assembly complex, if you remember, when we spoke in Abuja, I pointed that out, that it was also burnt. It was demolished at that time. We still haven't been able to find answers as to these questions. The people who died in the River State after the River State local government elections, nobody is even talking about them today. But anyway, we're out of time. Dr. Epelle, I always enjoy speaking with you, and thank you very much for always honoring our invitations and for sharing your thoughts with us. Thanks once again for joining us.